Hello, I'm Tristan. In today's video, I'm going to be comparing 5 smart indoor cameras from Ring, Eufy, SwitchBot, TP-Link Tapo and Blink. I'll mainly focus on the image quality for each of these cameras, but I'll also touch on their sound quality and each camera's pros and cons. Heck, here's a preview of the sort of super scientific testing that I carried out. Testing, 1, 2, 3. You also know that you can trust me because I'm so competent that it only took me 5 minutes to insert an SD card into this really annoying and badly designed SD card slot. I'm so cool. But joking aside, this isn't a sponsored video or a paid review. I bought all these cameras myself, so I can be 100% honest in everything that I say. In terms of setting up each camera, they're all fairly similar and standard. These models are all plugged into a power outlet. They all use Wi-Fi, so that you can manage your camera and view recordings from a phone app. But Eufy, Tapo and SwitchBot also offer local storage out of the box. Blink also offers this, but you have to buy a separate device. Now, I quite like the idea of having the option of local storage because Wi-Fi can be buggy, so recording to a local SD card can bypass these Wi-Fi glitches, while still allowing you to view the recordings through the phone app, assuming the burglar doesn't come along and steal the camera and hence the SD card recordings, of course. I'll cover each camera's pros and cons later on, but let's dive straight into the comparisons. So I started with some image quality tests, and firstly here's a few daytime tests. So that's me waving hello and hold up a sign. It says stop and look at it. So the image quality in Tapo and Blink I don't think are that good. SwitchBot, the quality on the sign is pretty good. And then Ring and Eufy I think are just second place here. They're decent but not great. So let's unpause. Now moving around, which is a bit harder for a camera, and let's pause and see the detail. So Tapo and Blink again aren't great. SwitchBot here, the detail on the sign's not as good, but on my face it's come out quite well, I think. Ring have actually done a decent enough job, as have Eufy, so I think they're better than Tapo and Blink in this case. Now let's finish off. Let's zoom in here and look at what's happening. So again, not great with SwitchBot in this case, actually. I noticed this a few times with very close-up detail. I didn't find SwitchBot to be the best, and Blink wasn't great either. But Tapo disappointed me the most because they advertise full HD quality and they do record in more than 1080p. You can see in the height there, 1296. But the bitrate is really low, and what that means is, even though they're recording a high resolution, the quality suffers quite a lot. Ring, I think, have actually done quite a good job here, as have Eufy. But Blink, there's something I need to point out. By default, it records in standard, which is 720p quality, which isn't very good. So you actually, before you get going, when you're setting up Blink, you need to select best, which is the full HD quality they advertise. Otherwise, you're just not going to get very good quality. You're going to get even worse than what you're seeing now. But I think overall with these tests, I liked Ring and Eufy, and sometimes SwitchBot were quite good too. Now let's move on to nighttime tests, where the cameras will switch into infrared night vision mode instead. Okay, so that's actually me putting the lights off. Now Ring and Blink switch over quite quickly, but Tapo, Eufy and SwitchBot actually struggle a bit. There's a few seconds you can see where it goes on and off, and you could lose crucial detail there. Let me zoom in so you can see Tapo and Blink haven't done too good of a job. SwitchBot have done pretty good, I think, as have Eufy and Ring, but I think probably SwitchBot and Eufy are better than Ring here. And again, Tapo and Blink, not so much. They're not too bad, but just not great. Then if I come a bit closer and pause again, they've all done quite well here. SwitchBot have redeemed themselves in these, close-up nighttime tests. Blink is a bit overexposed, it's a bit too bright, but you can still see the detail. But I think actually Ring, Eufy and SwitchBot are a three-way tie here. One thing I did want to call out for some reason with Blink is that when you turn the lights back on after nighttime, Blink doesn't go back into daytime vision like all the other cameras. You can see Tapo just did. Blink does not. It stays in this weird, no man's land where it's still stuck in night vision mode, even though it's now daytime. And looking around online, some people say that this seems to be a bug, but it's not one that I could manage to fix. But overall, I wasn't too impressed with Blink and Tapo. I did prefer Ring and Eufy and SwitchBot. In terms of testing sound quality, I didn't want to be ultra scientific. Visitors and burglars might be speaking right near your camera or a few feet away, so that's what I tested out. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 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 testing, 1, 2, 3. Right, that was all quite quiet. So what I'm going to do is increase each sound by 15 decibels so you can just hear it in a bit more detail, and then I'll sum up my thoughts. Testing, testing, 1, 2, 3. 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 Right, so I quite liked Ring if I pause there. It was decent but a little bit robotic. SwitchBot I found a bit too bassy and distorted as a result, whereas Tapo was the opposite. It was a bit too tinny, but overall fairly good. But really I think Eufy and Blink were the best for sound quality. Eufy overall was my favourite, because Blink I think was a bit too sensitive, and as a result it picked up a bit too much noise. Okay, so that wraps up image quality and sound quality. It's clear at this point that I quite like the Eufy camera, while I have some concerns about Blink. But I wanted to drill into some camera-by-camera details. Ring is Ring. They don't offer local storage in the traditional sense. Your only option is to buy a $250 Ring Alarm Pro and then pay $20 a month for a Ring Protect Pro plan, and you must live in North America. So let's just say that they don't really offer proper local storage. Their recording quality is fairly good, decent. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. It's full HD with a decent bitrate and FPS level, but it's nothing to write home about. Where Ring shines is that it all works fairly well. The device is easy to set up, and the Ring app on your phone works well. It's the most polished app of the 5. There's a fairly good amount of features, especially when it comes to adjusting motion sensitivity and configuring motion zones. You can't adjust the recording resolution or night vision performance with Ring, apart from the Ring Doorbell Pro 2. Since I have a Ring Protect Plus plan, I find it easy to just buy another Ring camera and install it without having to worry about paying an extra monthly fee. And remember that the Ring Protect Plus plan is $10 or £8 per month, and it covers you for an unlimited number of cameras, which is what I have, unlike the Ring Protect Basic plan, which is $4 or £3.50 per month per camera. I like Ring for simple motion-activated recording, but it doesn't offer 24/7 recording, nor does it offer real local storage. So look elsewhere if these two features are important to you. Blink disappointed me, to be honest. I mean, the setup process was easy enough. It exposes a temporary Wi-Fi network, which you then connect to on your phone and input the real Wi-Fi details. Then the camera just works. There's a free trial included in their cloud plan too, or you can buy a Blink sync module and then get local storage. The app looked fairly nice, but it's a bit less polished and more basic than the Ring app. I was surprised that the Blink recordings were limited to just 30 seconds max though. All the other cameras recorded for much longer. It actually made shooting this video and doing this test difficult, because the Blink camera kept cutting out in the middle of my multi-camera tests. I then have to wait for Blink to start recording again. I was also surprised that the Blink Cloud plan actually limits how much you can record. It has a storage capacity in the app. In some ways this makes sense, but it's not good if your Blink camera is mounted in a sort of high traffic location and you're away for a few days. After all, you'll probably fill up your entire capacity without realising it, and then you're losing old recordings. What I did like though was that the Blink app offers various config options for night vision, infrared intensity and video quality. This helps if you have issues with bad nighttime recordings or internet bandwidth issues. I just wish that Blink didn't default to 720p resolution and then not make it clear that you have to manually opt in to full HD recording quality. One big benefit for Blink though is that they tell you when your camera goes offline. They send a notification to your phone. This is awesome. It does take around 15 to 30 minutes before a notification is sent, but it's still nice. If you were away, being told that your camera is no longer recording is a neat feature. TP-Link Tapo setup process was fairly straightforward too. You can reuse your Casa login as well if you have any Casa devices. You do need to enable GPS location on your phone as part of the setup process, but you can then turn it straight off afterwards. Beyond that, Tapo offers cloud storage with recordings that are kept for 30 days without limit, or you can do local storage. you can set up continuous 24/7 recording in local storage mode too, which is awesome. You can also set it to record continuously at certain times of the day and then fall back to motion-activated recordings at all other times. This is nice because if you know that troublemakers tend to show up to your house or near your house at certain times of day, you can set it to record constantly at those times. But the downside is this will take up more storage space, so being able to then drop back to motion-activated recordings at all other times is quite nice. Tapo records at 1080p by default, but it also offers 720p and 2K recording quality. This seems like a sensible approach. 1080p might be good enough for you, especially if you're using the cloud plan, but then you're able to crank it up to 2K, which is useful too. In terms of downsides, firstly, you don't get rich notifications, which is where an image is included in the phone notification, if you're using the Tapo local storage option. This is only available with the paid-for cloud plans. I can sort of understand why they do this, technically, and Ring also don't send you rich notifications unless you pay for Ring Protect plan, but it's still a bit disappointing. Secondly, if you are using local recording, getting the recordings is a pain. You have to view them in the app, click the record button, and then sit there while it records and what you're watching, and then you've got to end the recording. It's a bit odd and clunky. It also messed up a few times for me, meaning that I sat there waiting 1 minute, ended the recording, and then I lost the recording. It just wasn't in my phone's storage. On YouTube, Tapo say that you can do bulk downloads via the SD card, but that's a bit of a mess. The SD card files are not organised. You see loads of files that you probably don't want to mess with for fear of accidentally breaking things. Now we come to Eufy. I've seen some people criticise Eufy because they are Chinese owned, unlike Ring, who are American. Eufy are owned by a Chinese company, Anker, and you'd have to decide whether that concerns you at all. But for me personally, I liked the Eufy camera. I think it's actually better than the Ring IndoorCam. The setup process was simple. It uses Bluetooth on your phone to connect to the camera, and then you input the Wi-Fi details. It then also gives you a warning if the Wi-Fi strength is too low, unlike most other smart cameras which just blindly accept your Wi-Fi details, and then later on they give you rubbish recording quality because of a weak Wi-Fi signal. Eufy also offers cloud-based recording plans or SD card local recording, which comes with military-grade encryption. Nice! I don't actually know what that means, but it sounds fancy. The app itself works fairly well, offering options for 2K and 1080p recording. It also has pet detection features, and you can even identify and speak to your pets with it. Like Tapo, you can also set up your Eufy camera to record 24/7, on a schedule, or motion activated. Two things that annoyed me were firstly that the SD card was hard to insert. It doesn't just easily click in on the surface. It has to actually be indented into the camera a bit. It's hard to describe, but maybe it's just me, but it was harder to insert than with the SwitchBot and Tapo cameras. Secondly, I started off with local recording at 2K quality, but I then changed to a cloud-based plan and it automatically dropped me back to 1080p recording quality, since the cloud plan apparently doesn't support 2K recordings. But the app never told me this, which was frustrating. It just downgraded my image quality without telling me. Beyond that, I was impressed with Eufy. The app offers a bunch of nice features, and while the app isn't quite as polished as Ring's app, and it also contains some minor broken English, I was happy with both the Eufy app and camera. Finally, we have SwitchBot. I like SwitchBot as a company. Their staff are friendly, and they have some good marketing. Loads of YouTubers review their products too, so SwitchBot are firmly on everyone's radar at the moment. But I was left a little bit disappointed with SwitchBot, if I'm honest. Firstly, the Android app has fairly bad reviews, and I experienced various issues too. The setup process uses Bluetooth to connect to the camera, just like Eufy's setup process, but it kept failing to find the camera. You can then switch to a manual setup mode, but it waits 2 minutes before telling you that it failed. It doesn't give you a specific reason why it failed either. Was the Wi-Fi password wrong? Could it not find the camera? Who knows? Eventually I used the indented reset button that requires a PIN, which isn't included in the box, and it did work though. I also couldn't find the SD card slot at first, but some Googling revealed that you actually have to set up the camera first, then move the camera lens upwards to expose the SD card slot. This seems confusing because you usually want to insert the SD card before setting up the camera properly in the app, but it works well enough. The app itself feels a bit buggy and clunky, but overall it's functional. you can choose to have cloud-based recordings or local storage. There's no free trial for the cloud plan though, which I was a bit surprised by. I mean, even tight-fisted Ring actually give you a month's free trial. Unlike Blink, Eufy and Tapo, you can't adjust the recording resolution. You can set up 24/7 recording, which is nice, but you can't then set it on a schedule. You either have to have 24/7 recordings or motion-based recordings. On the plus side, you also get a notification if your camera goes offline, which is nice. Blink was the only other camera to do this, and it's quite a valuable feature. Finally, I like the pan tilt functionality, along with motion tracking that worked fairly well for my testing. And that just about wraps up today's video. I was impressed by Eufy and Ring. I like to bash Ring at times on this channel, complaining that they don't offer proper local storage, nor do they actually offer anything better than full HD recording quality. But Ring's camera and app felt decent. Not great, but more polished than the ones from Tapo and Blink. I wanted to like SwitchBot, but the app felt a bit clunky. You can see my general ratings on screen now, but I'd sum up by saying this. If I wanted a simple motion-activated camera, I would go with Ring. If I wanted a 24/7 camera, I would go with Eufy. I like this supports local recording, RTSP, and also has cloud plans too. Even if it does change your resolution from 2K to 1080p without telling you. Hashtag not bitter. I also wouldn't have any issues with trying out Tapo and SwitchBot in the future, but right now I prefer Ring and Eufy. I hope you liked this video. If you did, please click the thumbs up button, which will tell YouTube that more people should see this video. Please also consider subscribing to my channel and clicking the little bell icon, which will notify you when I release a new video. Thank you.